Born with powerful natural abilities, Pokemon thrive within their world. Some have the power to draw strength from their environment as they praise the sun. Others are reckless, allowing them to hit harder at the risk of their own life. These abilities can be as innocent as gathering honey, all the way to pure, omnipotent power held by the one true Arceus itself. But how do they all work in lore and mechanic? Well, that's why I'm here to explain to you every single ability introduced in Generation 4 through lore and science! Howdy there, I'm Krillic, and we're back with more abilities! The Pokemon database is the basis for my info, and I will quickly re-explain what abilities are for you newcomers out there. Abilities introduced in Generation 3 Ruby Sapphire are special attributes given to each Pokemon that can aid them in battle. Many abilities act as a power-up by increasing a move or stat. Others introduced a third-party effect like weather conditions. Some abilities can even hinder a Pokemon battle. Each Pokemon can have only one ability, however, some have the option of two different abilities. The choice is random and each ability is equally likely. There are 308 single ability Pokemon and 355 dual ability Pokemon. Now there are hidden abilities, which is a rare ability that Pokemon normally do not have access to, which was introduced in Generation 5 through an old online feature known as the Dream World. Hidden ability is often abbreviated as HA. Most Pokemon encountered in the games will not have a hidden ability, but usually there are specific encounter methods where Pokemon can have a hidden ability. Certain event Pokemon and special in-game Pokemon may also have their hidden ability. Alternatively, items such as ability patches can be used to change a Pokemon's ability. Now, I will try to talk about how the abilities used to work in past generations as well, to the best of my ability, in addition to out-of-battle effects, but my focus is primarily on the current effects in the current generations, at least Generation 9, because that's what's out right now. With that out of the way, let's get started with the abilities, ordered from most to least common, with special examples to help you remember them. 36 Pokemon are checking your pockets to see if you're withholding any goods, as they have their ability Frisk. This allows the Pokemon to literally just check a foe's held item. The list of Pokemon is incredibly odd though. It seems like it's most commonly belonging to ghost Pokemon, which, sure, considering ghosts are depicted in media to possess or move around objects, or even be able to see through objects, yeah, sure, that makes sense. Though, Alolan Executor having it is a strange visual in my head. Does it just bend all the way over? Is it distracting you? What is happening? But then you start to break it down and not think about it too hard and realize that while you're looking way up at the Alolan Executor's top head, the head on its tail is likely just sneaking the way around and looking at your pockets when you're not looking. An appetite that cannot be sated, 35 Pokemon will eat food the instant that they have it, or at least struggle to resist eating what's right in front of them with their ability Gluttony. A Pokemon with Gluttony will use a Pinch Berry when its HP drops to 50% rather than the usual 25%. Pinch Berries include Figgy, Wiki, Mago, Aguav, Ayapapa, Liachi, Ganlon, Salic, Pitaya, Apricot, not Apricot, Lansat, Starf, Michael, I've never heard of that one, and Custep. Their descriptions literally say that they work in a pinch, so don't worry about memorizing those. Now, of course, this would belong to some of our more rotund Pokemon, such as Lechonk, Appletun, and Snorlax. But it would also belong to Pokemon such as Simi and the Pan Monkeys, since they are associated with the Chef Gym Leaders. There is the Alolan Grimer line who have this as well, and considering they will literally eat anything from couches to tires, though that only actually occurs if they're not properly fed, and they then lose control of themselves, again, it makes sense why they would have this ability, which honestly could help with them cleaning up Alola. Just make sure that you feed them, otherwise you're gonna lose your furniture. The last one that actually catches my attention out of the Pokemon that have this ability is Zigzagoon, mainly because Galarian Zigzagoon lives in such a harsh environment, being Galar, meaning that it's existing in a place where if you have food, you're going to eat it, and you're going to eat it all. That is actually an old natural instinct that exists even in humanity still, because you, in the past, like way back, I mean caveman times, baby, would not know when you're going to eat next. So if you have like 2 pounds of food in front of you, you better eat it because you might not eat for another week. And we can assume that same mindset works with Galarian Zigzagoon, and I mean, every other Zigzagoon is basically just derived from the OG Galarian one, and it just continues through their species, so, same stuff. The restrictive pattern of every other ability is prevented, stopped, and broken in place by the great knee of the 26 Pokemon with Mold Breaker. Also, yes, that is essentially the meaning of breaking the mold, literally preventing, stopping, and breaking the pattern of something that has occurred through time. Mold Breaker prevents a target's ability from affecting moves that the Mold Breaker Pokemon uses. It only affects abilities that change the power, accuracy, or other effects of moves. For example, a Haxorus with Mold Breaker would be able to hit a Bronzong, which has Levitate, using a move that is a ground move like Earthquake. Ground type moves would still not affect flying types though, because it's not based off of the ability, but their typing. However, if Dragon Claw KOs a Pokemon with Aftermath, a Mold Breaker Pokemon would still lose HP as Aftermath did not affect the Dragon Claw attack itself. There's a whole list of abilities that are bypassed by Mold Breaker, so I'm going to throw those on screen now, and they're gone. So, there's your opportunity. It's now gone. Forever. There is no such thing as rewinding a video. Keep watching. Actually, slow down the video while you're at it. It gets more watch time then. Now, the Pokemon that break the mold are, in my opinion, just commonly too stupid to even know that the opposing Pokemon has an ability, such as the case with Rampardos, which just headbutts literally everything. It has headbutt a skyscraper and made it collapse, not even within a day after it being revived from the past. Other Pokemon with this ability are just so overwhelmingly powerful that they ignore your ability through sheer force of will, as we see in Mega Gyarados, Haxorus, or even Ogerpon. Mega Gyarados, for that example, just goes full force, swimming through the water, and slams through a cruise ship, without stopping or slowing. Then we have the Pangoro, who is no different than Jotaro as a delinquent, going against what is normally accepted in society, and breaking the mold in its own way. Now, with a little bit of intelligence, some skill, and a well-placed strike, all attacks become more powerful through technical combat, as 25 Pokemon have the ability Technician. Technician increases the power of moves that are usually base power 60 or below by 50%. Moves with variable base power are boosted only when it is 60 base or below. For example, the move Magnitude is variable, and if it hits at level 6, it will be boosted from the 50 damage base that it would do to 75 damage. But if it hits at level 7, then it will stay at the 70 base power that it has without being boosted by Technician. Moves that will deal fixed HP damage, such as Sonic Boom, are not affected by Technician, so they are stuck doing the static damage. We see Pokemon who are well adept at their specific skills, or at least intelligent enough to strike at a foe's weakness, that have this ability. Meowth, for example, being an intelligent creature, even if we're not talking about the Team Rocket's Meowth. Smeargle fits here as well, since it's known as the only Pokemon who even knew how to paint until a certain other creature decided to walk around and flip us the bird in a Spain-inspired region. And even if we look at Marshadow, it is able to copy anyone's technique by swimming in their shadow, learning it, and then once it jumps out, it begins to practice that ability, and through sheer prowess and experience that it has had, begin to take these abilities that have already been mastered and take them even further beyond, taking them to the next level. And that takes a lot of technical skill. Again, many of the Pokemon with this ability seem to focus on a singular technique and master it for the most part. Breloom and Grapploct with Boxing, Pheasantipity with Beauty, Mousehold with baby making. We're gonna move on. If you are in need of superior hydration, 22 Pokemon can quench your thirst. A Pokemon with hydration will cure itself of any status conditions during rain at the end of each turn. This includes self-inflicted conditions, such as from using moves like Rest. Can you guess which Pokemon have this? I'm gonna guess frogs. And it looks like I'm technically not wrong, because Temple and Palpitoad have it, and otherwise all the other ones who have this ability are water types, excluding Goomy, who is a snail anyway, and they die from getting dehydrated by salt. So I mean, it kind of checks out. So basically, think about it this way. You have Pokemon that are staying properly hydrated. Frogs have to have moist skin. Goomy is a snail, needing moist skin. And then other creatures that are water-based, but need to stay moist. They're not completely like fish. They're not completely aquatic. The only real outlier here is actually Smoochum, which we can explain as it likes to take very good care of its lips, keeping them very clean and hydrated. Praise the sun! We have 21 Pokemon who would join us in jolly cooperation as they have the ability Leaf Guard. Leaf Guard prevents the bearer from succumbing to major status ailments, sleep, burns, poisoning, paralysis, or freezing during sunny weather. It does not prevent minor status ailments such as confusion or infatuation, nor does it prevent self-inflicted status conditions such as from using the move Rest. Important distinction there. Plants have it. Leaf Guard makes sense, right? Although primarily the ones directly associated with flowers, fruits, or vines have this ability, with exception to Leafeon and Swadloon, which both have very large leaves. Yeah, I just realized what I said. I'm not taking it back though. Fight me. While other people fear the golf ball-sized chunk of hail that rains from the heavens, these 21 Pokemon relish in the ice as it heals them with the ability Icy Body. A Pokemon with Icy Body will recover 1/16 of its maximum HP during hail after each turn. It also grants immunity to the hailstone damage if it is not already immune. Could you imagine if you were healed and then that damage was, or that health was taken away immediately? Just completely useless. But every Pokemon who has this ability lives in colder regions and are ice types, meaning they are exposed to hail constantly and have adapted to it. Fairly easy. Animals of the same gender in the wild constantly compete to mate. This is no different in the world of Pokemon, as 18 Pokemon have the ability Rivalry. Attack and special attack is increased by 25% if the foe is of the same gender. Attack and special attack is decreased by 25% if the foe is of the opposite gender. This ability belongs to Pokemon with typically clearer gender differences. The Nidos, Shinx which gains pants, Pyroar, and Pidove. Beautyfly even has a longer red marking, though it does get a little out of line as we talk about the Axew which does not have a gender difference at all. But then I popped off on stream. I'm not gonna lie, I was streaming me doing the research for this, and I got super excited because I realized something in this big old head of mine. That the reason why Haxorus, or that line, has the Rivalry ability is because we have Drayden and Iris, who were the 8th gym leader in the Pokemon Black or White game, depending on which one you played. And guess what? Drayden has an all-male team, while Iris has an all-female team, and they both have an Haxorus! Ugh! It was just deep inside of this skull of mine! And it felt so good. I'm not gonna deny it. I feel very proud of that lore, just explosion that happened in my brain. But I digress, yes. Typically this is something that you'd find in nature, and I actually just recently talked about it in my video explaining the entire Unova ecology. Which, if you're a big fan of ecology, go check out my ecology series, because I have gone through the first 5 generations in regions explaining the ecology and the food chain of all of those regions. And Unpheasant was actually a big example of this, considering it is a very peaceful creature as it grows up from Pidove to Tranquil to Unpheasant, but it has a strong rivalry with its own kind, as it'll whip its tassels on its face in the air to fight or threaten other males and attract a mate, which fits into why they have that ability, Rivalry. ruling with the power of an iron fist. But more aptly, with fists as hard as iron, we have the 18 Pokemon with the ability Iron Fist. Iron Fist increases the power of all punching moves by 20%. If the move has punch in the name, then it is game. Although there are some exceptions that don't directly say punch. So we have moves like Sky Uppercut, Ice Hammer, Headlong Rush, and Double Iron Bash for a few examples. Each Pokemon here with this ability are kinda known for punching, though we do get two massive golems that are incredibly intimidating here, as we have Golurk and Melmetal, which can punch like a truck. Otherwise, there's no real outliers here. Burdened with the weight of responsibility, 17 Pokemon eat the berry and take advantage of their ability Unburden. Unburden raises speed if a held item is used, though it does not have to be restricted to a berry. From thief Pokemon such as Liepard and Thievul to those that take children in Drifblim and more. Although we do get some other Pokemon who have this ability, such as Hitmonlee, and AbsolGore has it as a hidden ability. This could simply be in reference to taking off armor or weighted clothing, as you would see in anime, as they become unburdened and gain speed, no longer being weighed down. The rest of the Pokemon who have this ability can be explained rather easily. Sneasler is associated with carrying us in Pokemon Legends Arceus, so that's why it has the ability if it is transferred to other games, since there are no abilities in Legends Arceus. Griff-ii only has 3 fingers, and the birds are always covered in paint, so I'd say it'd be a burden to carry anything if you want to paint. These 17 Pokemon better hope they have a good alibi on November 22nd, 1963, as they all have the Sniper ability. Sniper increases the power of critical hits by 1.5. This means a critical hit will deal 2.25 times the normal damage instead of 1.5 times the damage. And here I was, like probably a lot of other people, thinking that critical hits do double damage. Ow, that's my elbow. In generations 1 through 5, critical hits do deal twice the normal damage, so in this case, Sniper would have inflicted 3 times the normal damage, so we aren't crazy, it used to do more damage with a crit. The obvious ones have this ability, such as the Horsey and Remoraid lines, considering that they are associated with firearms, or at least Horsey has this like turret-like face. Our Scorpion Pokemon is a bit odd though. I guess you could explain it as you need the precision of the stinger to hit the right place, a vital organ to inject the poison when you strike, which could also explain the number of the other Pokemon with this ability, as they have stingers or long beaks for more precise stabs. Attacks on these Pokemon are likely going to be fatal due to the way that they attack in general. I mean, good luck surviving a Beedrill stinger to the abdomen. I don't think it needs to have the Sniper ability, it just needs to hit you once. And then there's the literal Sniper Inteleon, which I say needs no further explanation. The next ability is actually a little confusing on the surface, as we have 16 Pokemon who have successfully adapted to their new environments, or at least have adapted their behaviors or bodies in order to even outcompete others of its own kind, as they have the ability Adaptability. That probably just puts your head into one big old mess tangled noodle, didn't it? But it's okay, we'll get there. Mega Beedrill getting a slow and fast acting poison. Scrapline blending in with seaweed and cooperating with Delmise. Corfish because of it being a crab and because of carcinization, which is basically the idea that I believe, 7 species, I've said this in so many other videos, but I believe it's 7 different species have, over time, unrelated to each other, over thousands of years, all become crabs. As if that's like the perfect little body shape idea for a species to become. Basculin actually gets a harder head, so that way it can swim upstream and withstand all the debris on its journey. And finally, Eevee, who just basically evolves based on its surroundings, what stones are used on it, or in general, external factors. The only other Pokemon that have this ability are Feebas, because it can survive and adapt to any environment, similar to Magikarp. Mega Lucario, because it actually has incredible fighting prowess and will actually adapt mid-battle to counteract its foes' attacks, abilities, and patterns. And then we have Yungoos and Gumshoos, which will actually learn their prey's routes and patterns, so that way they basically just stalk their prey until they're ready to actually kill their prey, which is really intelligent but kind of scary, actually. Oh, sorry, I also forgot about Porygon Z, which was supposed to be able to go into space, so it could adapt to literally any environment, and it ended up becoming a failure. But it's okay, Porygon Z, I still love you. Now let's take a quick tangent, because adapting is incredibly important, and nothing adapts better than insects. The reason being is because, let's say, you know, humans, we have to adapt to our environment and everything happening. Well, it takes over 9 months to actually have a baby. Meanwhile, insects pop those little babies out like they're Tic Tacs. It does not matter, meaning that they could continually be introduced to chemicals or food starvation or whatever it might be. And because the next generation is happening so quickly, their bodies, their behaviors, and everything else can actually adapt faster in time, not lifespan, but in time, than most, or if not all, other creatures, biologically speaking. Because sure, an insect might only live for 2 weeks, depending on the insect. Others can live for years still. But that means they're having more babies and more offspring helps those adaptations. Now, before we continue, I do want to say thank you so much for watching. If you are enjoying what you are watching here, please make sure you subscribe, share this with other people, and go watch my other videos as well. I have literal hours, if not days, worth of content that you can watch out there. And if you want to go the extra mile and support the channel, become a member for as little as $3 a month. You get early access to videos, a special role in the Discord where you get a special chat with everybody else who has a membership, and you get to see some behind the scenes content, because that's always really nice and fun. With that then, once again, thank you for watching, and back to the video. Have you ever been so clueless to what is happening or what is supposed to be happening that even the chaos of a moment doesn't affect you? The 15 Pokemon with Unaware know exactly how that feels. Unaware allows the Pokemon to ignore any stat changes in the Pokemon. Of course, this would belong to Pokemon like Bidoof, in addition to the incredibly gullible Cosmog, since it will just believe the good intentions that people have on the surface and be easily tricked. In truth, a lot of Pokemon here seem to be slow movers, painted as a little stupid, or are kind of seen as happy-go-lucky, since we see the Wooper line here and Fuecoco here as well, making it seem as though they all just kind of live at their own pace, unaware of their surroundings. Brave are the ones that even after flinching, even after experiencing fear, instead of backing down, they continue to pursue. 15 Pokemon with Steadfast steel their will and fight on. Steadfast raises speed each time the Pokemon flinches. We see Pokemon such as Galarian Farfetch, Lucario, Tyro, Gallade, and more with this ability. It really is exemplified through the Farfetch'd, Gallade, and Lucario Pokemon, as they are pumped with adrenaline. Galarian Farfetch and Gallade are also Galen's knights, hence their designs and even Gallade's name. They are fierce protectors, what is supposed to be the strong and potentially final defense as personal knights. If they fail, then others will fall as well. So if they were to flinch, they are revitalized in spirit, reminded of what is at risk, and strike even faster, maybe even in desperation, as they aim to protect. We visually see this in fighting types like Lucario, as once they do take a hit, they don't back down. You can see the literal moment they grit their teeth and steel their will, then push forward with more power, focus, or even rage. Hidden within the blur of a storm, 15 Pokemon sneak up on their prey undetected with the ability Snow Cloak. Snow Cloak raises ability bearer's evasion by 20% in a hailstorm. It also gives immunity to damage by hail if they are not already an ice type being protected by it. Outside of battle, if a Pokemon with Snow Cloak is the leading party Pokemon while traveling in a hailstorm or blizzard, wild Pokemon are half as likely to appear. All the Pokemon with this ability are ice types and are more common in Arctic and snowy regions, using the snow as camouflage to not just sneak up on prey, but hide from predators. It's like a white rabbit in the snow, no different than Citadel or Alolan Sandshrew for that matter. Desiring to fight anything and everything at all times, the 15 Pokemon with Scrappy doused their fists in holy water just so that they could even fight ghosts. The ability Scrappy literally allows moves to hit ghost-type Pokemon that otherwise wouldn't. Protective Pokemon, troublemakers, and the very aggressive Pokemon are all here with this ability. We see this exemplified through Kangaskhan and the Tailo line, which are protective of their young, fighting until, well, they die basically, refusing to back down as long as they can keep their child alive. Loudred and Expod are out here, but not Whismur, alongside the Pancham line as we get those troublemakers, and then the aggressive Pokemon such as Hisuian Decidueye and Mega Lopunny, considering that Hisuian Decidueye was a wandering Ronin of sorts that would literally fight any Pokemon that it deemed needed to be fought, and then eventually it kind of went extinct and changed its typing. Meanwhile, Mega Lopunny, something flipped inside of its head and it lost the ability to choose between fight or flight and said, no, I'm going to deck every single person I see with these big ears that I have. And it actually takes pride in the fighting ability at this point, if I remember correctly. Though there is a joke that these Pokemon could be shadow boxing if we look at our boxing glove Flamigo. And yes, if you didn't notice, its body is contorted to look like a boxing glove. Preparing for the worst, anxiety and adrenaline kick in for the 15 Pokemon with Anticipation. A Pokemon with Anticipation will shudder upon entering battle if an opponent has a move that is super effective against it, or a one-hit KO move such as Fissure, Horn Drill, Guillotine, or Sheer Cold. It only activates when the ability bearer switches in, not when the opponent switches in. Anticipation does not activate if the opponent has a move that varies in type as well, such as Hidden Power, Judgment, or Weather Ball, even if those moves would be super effective in the present condition. Makes sense as those abilities are beyond mortal understanding and idea, excluding Weather Ball, which is simply technically unpredictable. The Pokemon with this ability also seem to either prepare for battle way ahead of time, or are Pokemon that have a sixth sense for detecting Pokemon. This is relevant for the feelers that we find on Barboach, to the Hatterene line being able to detect emotions within a multi-mile radius, or even Rapidash, which can sense emotions and ill intent. Others, like Toxicroak or Wormadam, prepare for their environment or future battles through creating poisons or armor, respectively, in order to ensure victory or escape, as they all anticipate what comes next. High risk, high reward is how these Pokemon play their game, while on the outside, these 13 Pokemon may be described as reckless. Reckless increases the power of recoil moves by 20%. By extension, this means the amount of recoil damage taken will increase as more damage is dealt, except for high jump kick or jump kick, which are based on the user's HP to begin with. Pokemon like Basculin, Buffalint, Hitmonlee, and even Rhyhorn are pretty fairly obvious considering why they have it, and they just are naturally just a bit reckless in their fighting styles, constantly running after what is right ahead of them, or whether that to be biting them or ramming their heads into them, whatever it is, protecting their territory and just generally being aggressive, especially Rhyhorn, who just plows through everything in their path. And then there's Obstagoon, who has it because it thrived in such a harsh environment. It literally says it in its Pokédex info that because it exists in such a harsh environment all of its life, it was then able to bring about a power and evolution that is otherwise not seen elsewhere, drawing upon that latent potential. Eyes are a wondrous thing, as 12 Pokemon have the ability to look past the obvious and allow their moves to strike effectively, no matter the opponent, with Tinted Lens. The ability Tinted Lens powers up not very effective moves. This is a really weird ability until we look at the Pokemon that commonly have it, which are Bug-type Pokemon. Venonat line, Illumis, Yanmega. Even if we look at the ones who have it as a hidden ability, other than the bugs, we have Pokemon with really good eyesight, being birds like Hoot Hoot and Braviary. Even Sigilyph is a flying guardian of ancient times, so it would make sense that it would have this ability. Also, it references the idea that different creatures see the world differently than we do and in different colors. This is actually incredibly important in order to draw what is most important to the animal and their survival. Even if we look at these Pokemon that would otherwise also potentially have compound eyes, depending on which bug Pokemon we're looking at, even if it's just in their design and not ability, the compound eyes is basically every single eye is another pixel for the big picture, making it sharper, having better contrast, whatever it is, to then seek out those little weak points that you have, ensuring that even if something would otherwise not be very effective, it hits where it needs to get the job done. With hands devoid of thumbs and a nervous personality, we find 12 Pokemon tripping over themselves and incapable of keeping a firm hold on anything with the ability Klutz. Pokemon with this ability can't use any held items, though I will state now that does not include Z-Crystals. Pokemon known to not be as dexterous with their hands like Baneri, those without hands like Woobat, even the large-handed Pokemon that make it incredibly difficult to hold something smaller, such as the items that you and I might make for it, with Pokemon such as Golurk. Those, as I said, without fingers, once again, would include Beware. It just doesn't have anything, they're just nubs. And the baby-like Pokemon here as well, with Toxel and Capsakid. Pretty fairly self-explanatory. You get pretty angry too if you are punched in a pretty sensitive spot such as the nose, like these 12 Pokemon with Anger Point as they come back after being struck with maximum rage and power. Anger Point raises the ability bearer's attack to its maximum level, plus 6 stages or 4 times the usual power, when a move targeting it receives a critical hit. So to clarify, if a Pokemon is hit with a critical hit that has this ability, they go to maximum multiplier for their attack. All the angry boys out here get this, like Mankey and Tauros, even Camerupt, who gets really angry when it's hungry, having a really nasty temperament, and of course Crocodile, which is literally the bully of the Sands. Imagine like any other movie or TV show where you finally hit the bully back and it's just that, oh god, what have I done? And the bully just wails on you. Skip the fancy feat and move faster in a pinch as adrenaline pumps through the body of 11 Pokemon who have Quick Feet. Quick Feet raises the ability bearer's speed by 50% when inflicted by a major status ailment, poison, burn, paralysis, freeze, or sleep. If paralyzed, oh my goodness, the Pokemon does not suffer the usual drop in speed. All other effects of the status condition remain, such as losing HP from poisons or burns, or being unable to attack on the coin flip of paralysis, freeze, or sleep. Outside of battle, if a Pokemon with Quick Feet is the leading party Pokemon, wild Pokemon are only half as likely to appear. Once again, we see Guardian or communal Pokemon such as Granbull, Ursaring, and Mighty Yenna, which they can also be fairly fast. The rest are moreover puns, as Jolteon and Zigzagoon are known to be faster movers all the time. And then there's the Shroomish line, who doesn't have arms, I guess, so I guess it also makes sense why they have Quick Feet, or at least Shroomish itself, considering Breloom does get its really cool noodle extendo arms. They have it as a hidden ability. Combining their efforts as a community and enhancing their skills together, 10 Pokemon link and strike in full force with Skill Link. Skill Link causes multi-strike moves to always hit their maximum number of times. In fact, every Pokemon in the list is actually communal. They live with others of their own kind, or at least their real-life counterparts do. Shelder and Bivalves, Apom and the Monkeys, Pick-a-Peck with their families, Chinchino cleaning houses. The only outlier is Mega Heracross, as Hercules beetles are solitary creatures. The only reason we could potentially explain why it has it is that Heracross's Mega is specifically built to fire off multiple shots in rapid succession, as it literally has an Uzi cannon for an arm. Otherwise, doesn't really make much sense, and it is the major outlier of those that have this ability. Just like any good anime protagonist, the 10 Pokemon with no guard commit perfectly symmetrical violence, ensuring that their attacks hit while leaving themselves completely open as well. No guard ensures that all attacks used by and targeted at the ability bearer hit without fail. This includes moves used on a Pokemon in the hidden stages of the moves, Fly, Dive, Dig, and Shadow Force, so there is no escape. Outside of battle, if a Pokemon with no guard is the leading party Pokemon, wild Pokemon are twice as likely to appear. It's fairly obvious why each Pokemon has it. Machamp being one of the most widely known for it, though we do specifically get Honedge and Doublade, but not Aegislash, since it does have a shield. And then only Carablast, and not its evolution, since its evolution has armor. Again, no guard, no defense. The best defense is a good offense, and I do believe in that. I'm not gonna lie. If I play a Souls game, every time I play them, no shield, I will go armorless half the time. I don't care. If I can take you down, dodging your attacks, so that way you never hit me, I won. I don't care. The ability basically just belongs to any Pokemon that is highly offensive or reckless in nature. Protected from otherworldly effects intended to harm the Pokemon through dastardly means, we have the 10 Pokemon with Magic Guard. Magic Guard protects the Pokemon from indirect damage, including damage from the Poison Status condition, damage from a burn, though the attack drop still occurs, damage from Leech Seed or Curse, weather damage, being hail or a sandstorm, recoil damage from Head Charge, crash damage from Jump Kick or High Jump Kick, damage from Spikes or Stealth Rock when switching in. Toxic Spikes will still poison the Pokemon, but they won't lose HP from it, oddly enough. HP loss from Life Orb, though the move boosts still occur. And it does not prevent damage from Confusion, trapping moves such as Bind, or Struggle. In Generation 4, a Pokemon with Magic Guard cannot be poisoned from Toxic Spikes, nor become fully immobile through paralysis, though the speed drop still occurs. We see literally otherworldly or very intelligent Pokemon here with the Cleffa, Abra, and Solosis line. Think of it this way. These Pokemon are either not affected by the same things we are and are protected in some capacity, or in the case of Alakazam, are so smart that they have a preventative care for themselves. Which is really weird to think about, because then that would imply that, let's say aliens come down, there's a very good chance that if they have bacteria, and we know we have bacteria, and we interact with each other, dead, gone. It is Wipeout City, flat out. But in this case, it kind of flips that on its head and says, no, we just simply can't get affected by your bacteria, making us immune. Or their Magic Guard is literally, once again, a supernatural guard that is derived through technology, magic, telekinesis, whatever you want to say. The consequences of one's actions may only occur after the major event has passed. With 10 Pokemon who have the ability Aftermath, they are not the ones paying for their crimes, rather, the one who hurt them will pay. If an attacker feints a Pokemon with Aftermath using a contact move, a physical move, the attacker will lose a quarter of their maximum HP. This is another one that is fairly easy to explain. Popping a balloon with Drifblim and the flinching loud sound that it actually creates, though specifically for Drifblim, it does state if for some reason its body bursts, its soul spills out with a screaming sound. Its round body is stuffed with souls and expands each time it leads someone away. Then we also have the horrible odors that would emit from Pokemon such as Stunky and Trubbish, as after they faint, they would release their odor like a real-life skunk would, and the potential explosion that Voltorb would create after it faints. 2 left feet are not fit for dancing, often resulting in the 9 Pokemon with Tangled Feet tripping and falling, though it is in the most unexpected of situations in which their inability to walk straight actually assists them. Tangled Feet raises evasion if the Pokemon is confused. Of course we see Spinda here, the drunken little panda that it is. It's adorable, I'm not actually throwing shade. Mr. Rhyme has it as they have fancy feet, and Flamigo only ever walks on 1 foot. But that draws the attention to our other bird Pokemon with this ability like Pidgey and Chatot, and it turns out that birds in real life often hop instead of walk because it is actually more energy efficient for them. Explaining why, if these Pokemon were to walk, it would actually be really awkward and slow unless they were under some sort of effect. Although we do also find Doduo and Dodrio with this as a hidden ability, which there is the uncommon chance of seeing their next Tangled, not their feet, but it is also a really good reference since they may also want to go in different directions, which can cause them to stumble in disagreement. With luck beyond luck, not only are these Pokemon super lucky, so would you too be if you ever witnessed the 9 Pokemon that have super luck. The ability Super Luck raises the ability bearer's critical hit ratio by 1 stage. For most moves, this increases from a 1/16th chance to a 1/8th chance. Each of the Pokemon are related to Luck who have this ability. Murkrow and Bad Luck, though I will say now, depending on the number of crows, actually brings different types of luck. Absol being an omen, which can be good or bad. P-Dove makes more sense when you look at doves rather than pigeons in real life, as they are representative of peace, love, and luck in love. And then we of course have Togepi and its line, already known to be an incredibly rare and lucky Pokemon even without its ability, and it lines up with Togekiss as it is based on a dove as well as a symbol of peace. It's time to praise the sun again with the 9 Pokemon who have solar power! During harsh sunlight, solar power raises the ability bearer's special attack by 50%, but it also loses 1/8 of its maximum HP after each turn. The obvious sun-worshipping grass types have it, like Sunkern and Tropius, whose height allows it to have plenty of sunlight, though if Sunkern were to get too much sunlight, its head actually becomes too heavy for it to move. Also, it is possible for, you know, even plants to get sunburnt, so this also lines up. Then we add in the Charmander line, Mega Houndoom, and Helioptile. Charmander and Mega Houndoom get just stronger in sunlight. Their firepower becomes more immensely overwhelming, but they, in desperation, could be drawing upon even more sunlight, which could be drying them out. Meanwhile, with the Helioptile line, it too is a reptile in its own right, not saying that Houndoom was, just in case anybody thought that for some reason, but it relies on sunlight. It lives in the deserts, but if you are not basking correctly, you will end up damaging yourself. Ultimately, it's a give or take move. More sunlight, more power, but also drying out. The rain pools and flows together, streaming into rivers of water after a heavy storm. The only solace for the sheer amount of liquid is to have a storm drain to redirect the tides, as the 8 Pokemon with the ability Storm Drain have. Storm Drain forces all single target water type moves used by any other Pokemon on the field to target this Pokemon, and with 100% accuracy. The ability is most useful in double and triple battles, of course. When hit by the move, it deals no damage to the ability bearer, but raises its special attack by 1 stage, to a maximum of 6 stages, of course. Storm Drain will activate for a water type hidden power, but not a water type judgment. I mean, it's judgment. It's literally Arceus' signature move. The ability is overridden by other Pokemon becoming the center of attention from the moves such as Follow Me or Rage Powder. In Generation 4, Storm Drain did not increase special attack nor give immunity to water type attacks. It also did not activate for hidden power, so it feels kind of null and void. Water types and water absorbers galore here, with the Slug of Shellos and Maractus being here as well. This is fairly straightforward. Shellos needs to stay moist, meanwhile Maractus is a desert cactus who will absorb as much water as it can, so that way it can survive long term during those heavy desert droughts. So sure, direct the water at them. It only helps them live longer. Check your local weather station, as we're about to have a whiteout with the 8 Pokemon who have Snow Warning! Snow Warning creates a hailstorm when the ability bearer enters battle. The effect lasts 5 turns unless it is cleared via airlock or Cloud 9 or replaced by another weather condition. If multiple Pokemon with weather generating abilities, Snow Warning, Drizzle, Drought, or Sandstream, enter the field on the same turn, each weather condition will activate consecutively, fastest Pokemon first. In other words, the resultant weather condition will be that of the slowest Pokemon. Prior to Generation 6, Snow Warning lasts indefinitely upon activation. Ice Pokemon have this ability, so it's kind of a no-brainer, especially with Abomasnow, who can just kind of wave its arms, even if it's asleep, to summon an entire blizzard. 7 Pokemon have Eczema, as they can be described through the ability Dry Skin. Dry Skin causes several effects. When hit by a water-type attack, instead of doing damage, it will heal a quarter of the Pokemon's maximum HP. When hit by a fire-type attack, it actually does 25% more damage. During Bright Sunshine, the Pokemon loses an eighth of its maximum HP every turn. During Rain, the Pokemon recovers an eighth of its maximum HP every turn. In all actuality, though, we find lizards here, or we find Pokemon that need to be in moist environments, with the only outlier being Jinx. Like, okay, if we consider the fact that Smoochum is here, if we consider the fact that Smoochum has the hydration ability, maybe Jinx is doing a more proper moisturizer on its body or lips or whatever than it was as a Smoochum, and as such, in addition to living in such a cold and drying environment all the time, it would otherwise have dry skin without proper moisture. Able to see the future and read the minds of its opponents, the 6 Pokemon with Forewarn are warned of what moves the foe has. Yeah, only Psychic Pokemon have this ability, though 2 of them are Drowsy and the Mana lines, which are related to dreams and are also actually related to each other, or thought to be related to each other. So maybe they're taking a bit of a bite into the subconscious in order to obtain this information, whereas Jinx is just hypnotizing you, and general psychic types can just read your mind anyway, which is the idea. Simple and effective. The 5 Pokemon sticking to their guns and keeping things basic are able to take effects to the next level when they become stronger with their ability Simple, which doubles all stat changes that occur in battle. Now, we do get the dim-witted Pokemon like Numel and Bidoof, and that's not to diss them, that is straight up what the Pokédex says, but then the Zubat line has it as a hidden ability, which is really weird because they aren't a stupid Pokemon, actually. Even real-life bats are considered to be incredibly intelligent. I guess the line also has Unaware and Klutz, so they must be depicted as being a little bit stupid, which lines up with the rest of the Pokemon here. Already tempered by flames in their creation, 5 Pokemon possess the ability Heatproof. Heatproof reduces the damage taken from fire-type moves by 50%. It also halves the damage from a burn from 1/8 to 1/16 of the Pokemon's maximum HP. Bronzor Duo, Roly-Coly, and the Poltergeist Duo, actually, all of them involve heat in their creation or as a part of them. And for our Polcha Matcha friend, I found out matcha is usually prepared with 80 degrees Celsius or 176 degree Fahrenheit temperature water, so that explains why it has the ability. Very specific temperatures as well, which makes sense as to why matcha, in tradition or traditional methods, is really difficult to make. With a body too strong and well built to have true weak points, there are 4 Pokemon built with Solid Rock. Solid Rock reduces the damage taken from super effective attacks by 25%. For example, a Water-type move used against a Rock-type Pokemon with Solid Rock would deal 1.5 times the usual damage instead of 2. A double weakness would be reduced from 4 to 3. Pretty self-explanatory, especially when we look at Rhyperior and Caracosta, who do have strong and sturdy armor. Gathering honey is quite the task if you're the one making it, as our beautiful little bees do with the ability Honey Gather. Honey Gather has actually no effect in battle, but when a battle ends, any party Pokemon with Honey Gather may pick up honey as a held item if they're not already holding a held item. Of course, Comfey, Cutiefly, and Ribbonbee have it, but so does Teddy Ursa, as it does love to gather honey for food. A last-second defense is formed right before impact, filtering out the intense power as it slams into the 4 Pokemon with the ability Filter. Filter reduces the damage taken from super effective attacks by 25%. For example, a Dark-type move used against a Psychic-type Pokemon with Filter would deal 1.5 times the usual damage instead of 2. The double weakness would be reduced from 4 to 3. Mr. Mime and Mime Jr. throw up some nice little shields, while Mega Aggron already has an incredible armor. Meanwhile, we do have a little pun with Rivalry having its ability, as, you know, cars have a filter in them. And Rivalry is not actually the steel outside. Rivalry is something that is inside of that machine. Analyzing the foes as they come out onto the field, 4 Pokemon use their ability Download to effectively change themselves and adapt to the situation, based on the opponent's defenses. It raises attack if the opponent's defense is lower than its special defense, or raises special attack if the opponent's special defense is lower than or equal to its defense. In other words, it is literally taking your weakness and improving itself to take advantage of your weakness. In double and triple battles, Download compares the sum of all opponents' defense stats and the sum of all opponents' special defense stats and uses the lowest total. The only ones with this ability are the man-made Pokemon Porygon line and Genesect, which both literally do download information from whether it be actual electronically downloading them, being given a drive to download them, or are analyzing their environment, downloading their surroundings in a metaphoric sense. What hurts you only makes the 3 Pokemon with Poison Heal stronger. It's pretty straightforward, but HP is restored by 1/8 the maximum HP every turn while the Pokemon has the poisoned condition. Are intensely poisonous Pokemon like our Shroomish duo, despite not being a poison Pokemon themselves, all because spores that they release can be incredibly deadly. In addition to Gliscor, who is known to inject incredibly deadly poison into its prey while being immune to poison itself. Unlike its real-life counterpart, which is not even a predator by any means, or doesn't even have poison for that matter. Scorpion flies are freaky, but they're not even remotely as actually scary as they look. Give these 2 Pokemon an extra couple of minutes to get going to just warm up before they can really bring the hurts with their ability Slow Start. Now, Regigigas was the only one who had this ability originally just because of how ridiculously powerful this Golem is. Oh, I love it. And I have the 3 Regis, or 3 of the 5 Regis right there. I need Regigigas. I love it so much. But, you know, it's also, the reason why it has this ability is because it's been napping for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So the boy is a little bit groggy and does not like to be woken up by people. The only other Pokemon that gets it is a Pokemon that gets it because of a hidden ability, which is a pun because you have to warm up your engine with Varoom, who has it. Trying to be as normal as possible and trying not to be suspicious, Skitty and Delcatty are the only Pokemon with the ability Normalize. Normalize causes all moves used by the Pokemon to become normal type, and attacking moves increase in power by 20%. Normal type Pokemon also gain Stab from those moves, which same type attack bonus, and means an effective increase in damage of 80%. The following moves are not affected by Normalize: Hidden Power, Judgment, Multi-Attack, Natural Gift, Revelation Dance, Struggle, Technoblast, Weather Ball, and then the damaging Z moves. The move Flying Press deals normal flying type damage instead of fighting flying. Freeze Dry remains super effective against water types, but follows the normal type chart against other types, which means that it'd be neutral against grass types. In generations 4 through 6, Normalize did not increase damage besides any usual boosts from things like Stab. I mean, what else is there to say? They're cats, normal types, and act pretty much as you would expect them to. Pretty normally. Until, of course, they decide they want to throw up on your pillow in the middle of the night. Needing to buy time, the Jewel Thief does everything it can to distract others and wait for an opening, with Sableye being the only Pokemon with the ability Stall. The Pokemon moves after all other Pokemon do, which can be very effective with certain moves that increase in power after being hit, alongside of a couple of other moves. But that's pretty much it. It's a little Jewel Thief. He's stalling for time. He wants you to act first, and then it's gonna react to you, which could help in Sableye's favor. Multitype. An ability only belonging to God itself. an ability that transcends the boundaries of all Pokemon with the original plates of power that were used to build the universe, as Arceus is the one and only bearer of this ability. Until we talk about the very similar RKS system, which is an ability that occurs later generations. Multitype changes the ability bearer's type if it is holding one of the type plate items. Moves of the corresponding type receive stab bonus. The moves Gastro Acid, Roleplay, Skill Swap, Worry Seed, or the ability to Trace do not affect a Pokemon with multi-type. You're not taking God's ability. The moves Covet, Knockoff, Switcheroo, and Thief cannot remove plates from a Pokemon with multi-type, but they can remove any other item. This is because, in lore, the plates are only allowed to be used or held by Pokemon that are deemed worthy. And if you're trying to steal them, you are clearly not worthy. These were the plates that belong to Arceus and can only truly be used in their full power with the one that is worthy, as the plates state themselves. And as such, it makes perfect sense as to why they can't be taken away, but rather gifted or left behind on purpose for other people to discover. May the light be shared with all in its presence, as it is amplified and given as a gift in the form of Flower Gift by the Pokemon Cherrim. Yeah. Flower Gift raises the attack and special defense of all party Pokemon by 50% during harsh sunlight. And I thought Shaman would have it. No, it's Cherrim. It's Cherrim who has its, like, completely, covered form until there's enough sunlight for it to actually bloom. It graces us with its flowery presence when there's sunlight, I guess. So, yeah, I'm kind of in shock. I genuinely am surprised Shaman does not have that ability. It threw me off, you know, it's a flower gift. The Gracidia. I'm moving on before I get too stuck in it. And finally, visited by a creature clad in darkness. You are forewarned to keep your distance, as Darkrai has entered your dreams, souring them into nightmares you will never forget with its ability, Bad Dreams. Bad Dreams causes all sleeping opponents to lose 1/8 of their maximum HP at the end of each turn. It's the Pokemon of the New Moon. The New Moon has a lot of significance in Omen to it, and Darkrai defends itself by keeping people away and afraid through their dreams, because it doesn't want to be seen. And it also has a nightmare prison that it can send people and Pokemon to if they do hunt or search for it. So, while also being attracted to those with bad dreams, it makes sense why this ability exists, especially for a Pokemon so tied to it like Darkrai. But with that then, nice, short, and sweet, we have gone through every single ability that was introduced in Generation 4. We'll get through each generation, and I might have to start actually combining them together, so that way these videos aren't too short for all you people out there who love a long video to sleep or work to. Best of luck, by the way. But if you enjoyed, as always, please make sure that you subscribe, share this video with others, go watch my other videos that I do have out there, as you can help support the channel and even go the extra mile and become a member for as little as $3 a month, which does a lot to help the channel while also giving you benefits, such as a special role in the Discord that gets you behind the scenes content on the YouTube or Patreon, and then if you're a member on YouTube, you get access to videos early. But once again, thank you so much for watching. Don't do anything I want to do. Don't think I want to do. Please be nice to each other. I love you, and I'll see you next time.